Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Noah, and in this episode I want to share my personal gambling addiction. This isn't easy for me to talk about necessarily, but I hope you can appreciate the video. With that being said, let's get right into it. So before I begin, I think it's pretty important to establish a universal understanding of what gambling is. So as you guys probably know, gambling is basically putting your assets or your money or your time on a bet, right? On a race, on an election in some cases, right? And there's many other things, right? There's sports, there's all these different things that we can make bets on. And essentially this is all gambling. And generally speaking, gambling doesn't have a positive connotation, right? Because generally speaking, a lot of it leads to negative returns, right? It leads to failures, and that's why it's called the gambling, is because you're risking a lot, and generally speaking, not many people are going to see the winnings. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called gambling, right? And of course, this is exactly what we see with casinos. If more people leaving casinos were positive than negative, it wouldn't be a casino, right? It would be a charity, or it would be a donation center or something like that. But we all know that they're businesses, and they're very profitable businesses, because people go in there and gamble and lose their money. But this video is about my own personal gambling, right? This is what I want to talk about in this video. So what is my own personal gambling addiction? I am going to show you right now. So here it is. You guys might have seen this page in some of my other videos, but this is basically my gambling, right? Everybody has, for the most part, some different types of gambling, some monetary, some not. But this is my addiction right here. And what we're looking at, of course, is the portfolio, that I use for the investment series here on my YouTube channel, The Road to Riches. And this is the main dashboard, right? So it goes over all of my investments, how much money I've put in, and how much money I've won or lost in some cases. And this is basically a summary of my gambling problem here. And of course, I think it's important to clarify that investing for something like retirement or anything like that is a gamble, right? We are putting our trust and our confidence in these companies here, and making a bet that they are going to continue to succeed for the foreseeable future. And, in time, their value will increase. Therefore, our investment, our gamble in them will increase as well, leading to positive returns, right? This is essentially a form of gambling as well. But of course, I want to show you guys how I justify this, right? There's a lot of things going on with, all of these different investments, and I'm only going to focus in on one of them, and that's going to be the first one right here, VOO. This is an ETF that basically mimics, the S&P 500. There's a lot to go in about that. That's not really the point in this video, but essentially it is where I have the most of my money. I've thus far in this portfolio for the series on my YouTube channel spent $12,000, right? The cost basis is how much money I've put in to this gamble, right? This ETF over the course of this series, which I think I've been doing for about 8 or 9 months at this point. And we can see right next to this that, we see a green number, which green is always good in the financial world, but it's plus $1,366, meaning that I have essentially won, since I started buying shares of this ETF, I've won $1,366. Now, it's not a crazy amount like some jackpot you might see, at a casino, the $1 million, the $2 million, the $10 million, whatever it is. But it's a win nonetheless, right? And this trend continues for my entire portfolio, which is really good as well, meaning I'm winning all across the board. But of course, we can't justify gambling just based off of one number, right? We want to see a little bit more, and I'm going to show you how I justified putting this much money into this ETF, and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. So of course, what would a finance video be without hopping into Excel? And what are we looking at right now, right? There's a lot of numbers, a lot of numbers here. As you can see, there's a lot going on. But the important thing to note is that these numbers and dates and so on are essentially the values of the VOO ETF that I was just explaining to you, how I have, $12,000 in that portfolio loan invested into VOO. This basically is a summary since 2014. Now, VOO has been around a little bit longer than that. I think their inception was 2009 or 2010. But when I exported the data, this is basically what they gave me. But this is still good to work with. So like I said, this goes over all of the values that VOO had on a day-to-day basis, right? It starts at 611, 612, 613. And you might see, there are some days that are missed here. That's just the nature of how data works. There's going to be missing data points. It's not the end of the world, thankfully, because we have so much data, but it's going over the value of VOO. As you can see, in June 11th, 2014, it was $178. And if we go all the way down to our most recent, which was yesterday, June 10th, it was $492. So it goes over every single number for every single day for the most part for VOO. So now I want to share one more piece of information that I think is valuable in determining if a gamble like this is actually going to be worth your time. And I'm going to show that to you right now. So I exposed a few other columns, and what are we basically looking at? So what I did was I just used a few simple formulas to give us the return percentage, right, on a day-to-day basis. So this is essentially obviously going to be a positive or negative number, or I guess zero in some cases, and it's going to give us an idea of the win percentage on a day-to-day basis. So today, at the end of the day today, I would compare my results for the end of the day yesterday, and if it's a positive, it basically means I've made a little bit of money. And that's kind of represented by column H here. And then I made things a little bit more simple by adding another column and basically making it so it'll tell us if the returns were positive and negative, very cleverly colored green and red as well. So if we scroll down, obviously there's a lot of data points, right? Because this is on a day-to-day basis, not a year-to-year basis. There's a lot of red, there's a lot of green. If I'm just scrolling at a constant pace, you might say it's maybe 50-50, and that's kind of, after looking at it, that's maybe what I would construe from this as well. But that's kind of dig one step deeper. So I'm going to share another piece of information right now. So now we have broken things down a little bit more. Now we know the total count of positive and negative days for about a decade. So for positive days, positive return days, we had 1,359, and negative days we had 1,157 for a total of 2,516. Now, this number, 54%. What is 54%? In this case, 54% is our positive percentage, aka our win percentage on a day-to-day basis for this entire period. So this basically means that out of all of these days since June 11th, 2014 up until basically yesterday, if we were investing, if we were gambling, if we were putting our money on this investment, we would be winning 54% of the days that we held on to this ETF. Now, in my personal opinion, I think 54% is relatively decent, considering this investment as a whole is generally known to be a very hands-off investment, meaning that if you're putting money into this fund, you're not watching it, right? For the most part, you're not keeping track of it. You're just putting money in, and you're reaping the long-term rewards of putting money into this ETF. Now, generally speaking, since over the last 10 years or so, the return rate for this ETF has been just above 10%. So that's obviously something that is important to know as well, because if you want to obviously make a decent sum of money, if you're going to be giving or betting money on this ETF, and 10% is a pretty good return rate, if you ask me. Now, just as another comparison, I wanted to kind of take a look at what the win percentage would be if you were going into a casino on an everyday basis, and this is kind of what I came up with. I didn't do a crazy amount of research. Obviously, I'm not too interested in it, but I thought a quick search would suffice. And it says about 13.5% of casino goers in this study went home with any kind of money, right? And obviously it goes into things a little bit more where a lot of people lost a lot of money, but we're focusing on winning here, right? Because we know that my gambling problem within the stock market, or more specifically in this example VOO, I win about 54% of the time on a day-to-day basis. Now casinos on the other hand are 13.5%. So obviously there's quite the discrepancy there, and that's not a discrepancy that I think I want, especially if I'm putting my retirement and my hard-earned money on the line. So there you go. That is my brief explanation of my own personal gambling addiction. It's one of those things where once you start putting money into investments like this that have a proven track record of returning good results, obviously nothing's going to be perfect. It's not going to return 100% of the time. I'll still take 10% at 50% on a day-to-day basis because, like I said, it's a very low effort investment, meaning if you put money in, you're just going to leave it. And then when it is time to start pulling money out, you're going to see, based off of the history of this ETF, you're going to see pretty good returns. Like I said at the beginning of this video, everybody kind of has their own form of gambling. And I hope this video was able to act as a sort of a new way of thinking about what good gambling can be within the stock market. As always, if you've stuck along this far in the video, I do want to thank you so much for your time. I greatly do appreciate it. And of course, I do hope you were able to take something away from this video and hopefully apply it somewhere within your life as well. Again, thank you so much for tuning in today. And of course, happy financing.